Getting help on the command line about commands that we run on the command line kind of makes sense. We've also seen in the manual pages that we can actually get help about programming related things in the form of API documentation. So again, section 2 and section 3 of the manual pages actually give us about a bunch of information about how to call functions in the C programming language. They give us lots of function signatures and information about the things that we can pass to those functions. But there's kind of a limit to this. So let's say, for example, that I want to find information about arrays in C. This is a contrived example, but please stick with me for this. What I've got here is a small program that declares an array in C, and it prints out a message that says this is how many elements are in this array. But the part that I don't know what to do is I don't know how to find the size of an array in C. I'm going to quit out of Vim here, so I'm going to hit Shift : and then Q on my keyboard. And I'm going to try using this command line based approach. So we learned that with the manual pages, we can pass this -K option to search. I'm going to look for array length in here to see if I can find anything about this. And there's actually some stuff in here that's sort of helpful, like bsearch is the binary search of a sorted array. So it's got something in there. And there's other stuff in here like strlen and sternlen. These are functions that actually are kind of directly related to counting the number of elements in an array. But the problem with these is that they are assuming that the thing that we're counting is a string. And strings in C have special characters or special parts to them that say this is the end of the string. I want to count an array of integers, and when I'm counting numbers and integers, there's no special number that I can use to say this is the end of the array that isn't in the array itself, unless I know information about the array, but then we're getting into things that are kind of outside the scope of what we're thinking about here. So the manual pages are not actually going to help me. Another really common way to find help on the things that we're trying to do when we're programming is to take a look at the internet and to start browsing the web. So I'm going to search for how to find the length of an array in C. This is going to bring up for me really great websites like geeksforgeeks.org, FreeCodeCamp, and other websites that you have really commonly seen when you search for programming related questions. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that I don't trust geeksforgeeks.org, or I don't trust freecodecamp.org. I'm sure that they're great websites, but I'm going to say for the moment that these are websites that I've never heard of before. So I'm going to change the way that I'm searching for things. The first way I'm going to change that I'm going to search for things is to specify the specific site that I want to use in terms of searching for things. You can do this in every search engine, so things like Google, which we're looking at right now, or DuckDuckGo, or Bing. You can specify which site you want to limit your results to by typing in site and then : and then the domain that you want. So the part of the address that ends with something like .com. So I'm going to say that I trust stackoverflow.com a lot better than I trust things like geeksforgeeks.org. So I'm going to go to limit my results to stackoverflow.com here. And we get lots of answers here, but I'm going to click on the first one. So we were using our web browser, we were using our search engine to be able to find the things that we wanted to get help with. And what we did there was to limit our search results to a certain website. Once we're at the certain website that we want to get to, it's pretty easy to just kind of scroll down here and see this great big green checkbox here, as this has been accepted as the best answer 15 years ago as of today's recording. I mean, I think that's a pretty good indicator that this is a proper answer. And so the next step is to start thinking about, like, is this actually reputable of a source? And to try actually work with the thing that we're going to work with in the context that we want it to work in. Here, the answer that we have is pretty easy to copy and paste. So we can see that it looks pretty close to what we were trying to do. There's an array of integers here that have been declared, And then there's a line here that looks to calculate the size of the array using something called size of. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to copy just this part. And I'm going to switch back to my terminal. And I'm going to open my file here. So I'm going to type in ARR and then tab to finish that up. I am going to paste this into my file now. Part of what I'm trying to do here is, yeah, I found this thing, but I want to verify that it actually works. So I'm going to type in int my array size. This is using, the answer that we had before was using a special type called size t. And I'm going to say for now, I don't know what that means and I don't want to copy it. So I'm just going to paste in the part that I did copy. I'm going to change the thing that we're saying the size of here to be my array. And I'm going to change the same thing here, my array at 0. And I'm going to replace the question mark with my array size. And I'm going to save this. So I'm going to escape back to normal mode. I'm going to write and quit. And then I'm going to make arrays.c. So I'm going to run just make arrays here. This will compile it into a program that's called arrays. It seems to have worked. I'm going to run arrays, and it does indeed print out the correct answer. I'm going to change this though. So I'm typing in vi arrays tab. Now there's arrays by itself. I'm going to do dot and then tab to get to .c. I also want to be able to do this in a function. And I've already started to declare a function here. So I'm going to say I want to define the function now. So int array size, int array. And I'm going to say that I'm actually just going to copy that line. So I'm going to go back to normal mode. I'm going to move up with my keyboard to this line. I'm going to cut it by pressing D twice on my keyboard. I'm going to go back down here and I'm going to paste it with P. Now I'm going to return that. So return my array size. And I'm also going to change my array to be the value that the name that I've passed in as an argument here. And this effectively looks functionally the same, good programming practice. I've got this thing that I want to do pretty commonly, so I'm going to put it into a function of its own so that I can just call the function instead of having to copy and paste that same line of code over and over again. I'm going to quit Vim and I'm going to make arrays again. Whoops, I forgot to change the name of it in the print statement. So I'll actually have to redeclare this, I guess. Int my array size is equal to array size, my array. Okay, so write and quit, make again. It works. And if I run this code, I'm actually going to try recompile this again with Clang. So Clang wall arrays.c-o arrays. Clang, to its credit, actually tells us that what we're doing is probably wrong. It doesn't really explain why it's wrong, but it tells us what we're doing is probably wrong. It says size of array will return the size of the pointer, not the array itself. That's good to know. That's really good to know, because if I run this code again, it says that my array size is 2. Getting into the reasons of why this is happening is outside the scope of this course. This is starting to think about what actually happens when we pass things to functions in C and when we are working with things like pointers and arrays. It's outside the scope of this course, so we're not really going to talk about it. If I go back to my browser window, though, I'm going to scroll down a little bit further here. And while that first one is the correct answer, what the next thing is starting to tell us, this next answer is the size of is the right way if and only if you are dealing with arrays not received as parameters. An array sent in as a parameter of a function is treated as a pointer, so size of will return the pointer size instead of the array. So this is telling us explicitly that while that's a good idea, the size is not actually going to work the way that we want it to. And it tells us, thus, inside functions, this method does not work. Instead, always pass an additional parameter size, indicating the number of elements in the array. This is even telling us the correct thing that we should be doing. So, we've limited our search results to stackoverflow.com to say, hey, I trust this website. And we found an answer that has been marked as the correct answer at the top. And what we're doing here is trying to verify that the correct answer is actually going to work in every context that we want to use it in. And we've demonstrated that that's false. Another pretty common way to ask for help online at this point is to use something like ChatGPT to answer questions for us. So I'm going to ask the same question here. How do I find the length of an array in C? And it will helpfully tell me that I can ask for the strlen of a string, which is fine. That's not actually what we want. But then it also just tells us the same thing that thing that was marked as correct in Stack Overflow says. ChatGPT and a lot of these large language models have all been trained on stuff like Stack Overflow. And so all they can really do is give us an answer that's already there on something like Stack Overflow. To its credit, if I scroll down a little bit further, it does kind of actually tell us that we can't do this. For dynamic arrays, manually track the length since you cannot use size of directly. But it doesn't explain why that doesn't work. It doesn't really explain why this will work here, but not when we pass things to functions. We could then ask it further, well, this doesn't work when I pass the array to a function. And ChatGPT, being super polite, will say, sorry, or you're absolutely right. And then it explains why. Oh, you actually have to pass the size of the array to the function. This is a pretty contrived example of using something like arrays in C and Stack Overflow to help find answers about how to figure things out online. Mainly what I'm trying to accomplish is you need to, yes, be able to find things online or ask ChatGPT how to help you with something like this, but you also need to be aware that ChatGPT can be wrong because people on the internet can also be wrong, and you have to try the stuff out that you're getting from these things in really all the different contexts that you want to be able to do it in.